Last time we created our character UI and we gave it the ability to detect mouse clicks, and we also gave it a way to equip items and to change the textures for the items. And for our hands, by default, we're treating those as melee weapons that just deliver a small amount of damage. But so far we haven't actually created an enemy or anything to receive damage. So let's do that now. So in Godot, there's this pattern called signal up, call down. So if we think about our tree, we start with a root. And from here, we're going to have our player over here, which is part of the scene tree. So this is connected like this. And then under the player, we have our character UI. And we're going to have 4 of these, but we're just going to show 1 for now. And then under that, we've got our left hand and our right hand. So we've got these connections like this. And then off of root as well, we also have, or we're going to add, an enemy. And then this hangs off of root. So this comes off over here in the same tree. It goes over here. So the basic pattern of what we're going to do is when we use the melee attack, these two things have the same script, so they're going to emit a signal called melee attack, and it's going to pass a damage attribute, or a damage argument, up to the character UI. The character UI is going to subscribe to those signals, and it's going to pass melee damage up to the player. Now at some point we can also add some position information, but we haven't done that yet, but we can do that later. Then the player is going to subscribe to the signal from the character UI and receive the melee damage. And then it's going to ask, is there an enemy in front of me? And if so, then the enemy, we're going to create a script that has a take damage method. And so then our enemy will know it's an enemy that can take damage by asking, is the thing in front of me an enemy, and does it have a take damage method? And if so, call the take damage method and send the damage along. So this connection here is a signal, this connection here is a signal. Then there's going to be this sort of implicit connection from here to here, which we're going to use our raycast to form just temporarily. And then this is going to be a direct reference to the enemy, so we're going to get this actual enemy. So we're going to have the object, and then we can call its function. So signal, signal up, call down. Now you could also have like up here instead of root, you could have a root up here, and this could be like a combat manager element, and then that would be in charge of delivering the damage. We're not going to go that complicated because it's not necessary right now, but that is another way to do it. So this is a perfect example of the signal up, call down. Okay, so let's get started. So the first thing we need is we need an enemy. So I'm just going to make this an area 3D. Because again, we're not really using the movement physics of a character body. So I'm just going to say this is the enemy base. And I'm actually going to take the underscore out because we're doing camel case. Okay, so the other thing we're going to do, so if you are familiar with the game Eye of the Beholder, or most of these grid-based games, if we think about this as, here is our like grid, like here's the actual space being taken up by our characters or by our enemies, then within this, we can have like an enemy right in here and an enemy right in here. So they can be in these positions, or we can do it as, let me just move all this up. Instead of like this, where there's one enemy kind of next to another, we can also have the enemy sort of be right here in the center. So eventually we're going to want to record position information and only have our player over here be able to attack this or the center, have this player attack here, here, or the center. And then we can have our back row guys sort of attack here and the damage can be delivered to either side. We're not going to get into that in this video. We're just going to start with the basics, but just keep this in mind that you know, you can either do this and work ahead to get this sort of pattern, or we'll probably do that in a future video. Okay, so our enemy, like I said, this is going to be basically the same as our player. So I'm going to add a collision shape. And this is going to just be a box mesh, so, or a box shape. And this is going to be 2.5, 1.5, and 2.5, just like our player. Just to make sure collision shape is 2.5. Oh, we have it 2.5 high. That's probably not right. I mean, it doesn't really matter, but just so it fits in our hallway, bring that down. It doesn't really matter because there's nothing really above or below us, but I'm just going to make these consistent. Okay. Then I'm going to save this scene. I'm going to make a new folder for enemies. And this is our enemy base. So this is just like if we make multiple different enemies, we'll kind of reuse this structure. So all we need now is a script on our enemy base. So we'll just add this enemy base, and we'll call this class name enemy base. Now, we can get rid of this stuff, and all we really need is, this is just going to be like a punching bag, so we would eventually put in like health for each individual enemy that are in this, but we don't know how many enemies are going to be in this yet. This is just sort of like a place where enemies exist. So we can have like different versions of this for like a really big enemy that occupies the entire thing, or smaller enemies that can fit into like one of 4 slots. So if you think about like kobolds versus, I forget what the other like really big enemies in Eye of the Beholder are, but like the skeletons and the zombies and the kobolds and the leeches, they can all fit in 1/4 of a square, and then there are certain enemies that only occupy the entire thing. So all we're going to do is we're just going to say func take damage. This is going to be an int, or damage int. And for now, we're not actually going to record the damage or anything, so we're going to underscore it, void. And for now, we'll just say pass. Now, since this is just going to be like a punching bag, we're not actually going to like take any damage or anything, but we want to see that damage has happened. So I guess instead of pass, we can just say print enemy took damage, just so we can see that something is happening. And then we also will want to be able to visually see this enemy or something. So I'm just going to add in a mesh instance 3D, and I'm going to move it kind of closer to the front of the enemy. I'll say a capsule mesh. Now this is bigger than our actual enemy, so I'm going to say this is 1.5 meters tall, and now it looks a little bit too fat, so I'll say, I'll say 1.35, and that looks pretty good. Now, since it's an enemy, we should probably make it red. So let's do a surface material override, and we'll just do a standard material. We'll go albedo, and make this sort of red, make it kind of dark, and there we go. We've got our enemy. So let's just put this in our game. So let's see, we start right here. Let's just put our enemy right there. So I'll add instance a child scene. Whoops, not that. That would be weird. Instance child scene, our enemy base. Now, where is it? It's right there. We want it to be here. And it's sort of like halfway in the floor. We want it to be right about there. Let's see. 0.5. Is that what we want? Yeah. So, right about there. Is it? Yeah, it's kind of sticking through the floor, but that's okay. Oh wait, no. We don't want that. 0.75? There. That's what we want. Okay. So now we have an enemy that can take some damage, and actually we want this to be 11, 10.5. We want this to be 0.5. No. It's our player on 10.5. So yeah, we want this to be 5. Yeah, that looks good. Okay, this little offset is throwing me off, but that's what we want. Okay, so now we have a way to see our enemy. So if we play this, we move forward, we can see the enemy, and we can not walk through it, which is good. Oh, we can walk through it that way, but we cannot going forward. So let's take a look at our player. So if we look at our forward ray, so in our forward ray, we've already said we can collide with areas because we tested triggering the switch with this ray. But we didn't do that with our backward ray, or with our left ray, or with our right ray. So we're going to do that now so that we can't move into the enemy from different directions. So if I turn around, I can't go back into the enemy, can't go right into the enemy, I can't go forward into the enemy, and I can't go left into the enemy, which is what we want. And also we're going to use this ray to detect that there is an enemy here and deliver damage to it. So we're going to implement this pattern. So we need to jump into our script and go into our hand. It's our hand. Layer texture rect. Okay. So what we need is a signal melee attack. And this is going to pass damage as an int, as an argument. So when we call this use item method, if we use a melee item, then what we're going to do is do melee attack.emit, and what we're going to do is send the damage from the equipped item. So we're going to go equipped item dot health offset, which is our damage. So now we need to extend our character UI a bit. So we already have a reference to these left and right texture rectangles, and we're going to need another signal. So we'll go signal melee attack, and again this is going to be damage int. We're going to add a function, or function, whoops, melee attack. It's going to say it's going to take damage int, and this we're going to connect to both our left and right hand. signals. So let's just test it with the left hand for now. So let's just do left texture rect dot melee attack dot connect. Just do melee attack. That should work. Oh, I wonder if it's so actually, let's underscore this. It's a private method. There. And we need that. Okay. Expected indent in body. Let's see. Okay. So what this is going to do is we're going to do melee attack dot emit and pass the damage along. So now all of our little warnings go away because we're actually using damage. Okay, so far what we've done is we look at our character. We have our left hand, which is going to be our hand icon. This has a signal called melee attack that's going to emit with a damage attribute or a damage argument. That goes to this entire character UI, this entire thing. That's going to receive it and pass it up to our player. And so that's what we've done here. We're just emitting this and saying, someone else deal with this. Now we need to go into our player script, and we're going to have func melee attack. And we're just going to say damage int void. Now, what we're going to do is when this occurs, so first we have to connect it. So we're going to go in our ready, we're going to say, oh, do we have a reference to character UI? Don't think we do. So we're going to get character UI. I'm going to click and drag that in. So now we have character UI. And if we have multiple of these, we'll need to give them different names. But now down here, first what we're going to do is in ready, say character UI dot melee attack dot connect to underscore melee attack. Need to get rid of that. Okay. Now what this is going to do is when we get an attack signal, the first thing we need to do is check, is there something in front of me? So we're going to say var enemy equals forward ray dot get collider. Now if enemy, so if there is something that this touched, then we say if enemy that has method take damage, and we have to put that in a string. Then we say enemy dot take damage. So this is our call down. So again, so we have signal to character, signal to player. Player gets a reference to the enemy. If the enemy has this method take damage, then call it with this function. So, and then let me just double check our enemy base. We have take damage, and that's what we called it in our player, take damage. So then we say take damage. So in theory, if we now go in here and attack with our right or our left hand, using item left hand, enemy took damage. That's perfect. That's what we want. And if we do it with our right hand, nothing happens because we haven't connected that signal yet. So let's do that now. So in our character UI, let's do the same thing, except we're going to say right texture rect. Test this again. Go. Enemy took damage. Now this doesn't look like much, so let's make it a little more exciting. Let's go into, first of all, let's take out the see, texture rect. Let's take out this using item thing. We'll leave it in for now because we have all these other types, so we want to be able to test that as well. Actually, let's say pass or print using consumable. We'll just do this instead of pass using and using passive, and this should do nothing basically. Print using launcher. Okay, now we can take this out because we don't need it anymore. And let's go into our enemy base, and instead of this, what I want to happen is something more visual. So just to register that this hit has occurred, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create under here, child node animation player. And for our animation, I'm going to say new and then hit. So we have to add a property track, and that's on this mesh instance. Whoops. Property track, mesh instance. Actually, instead of this, let's just do it this way. So I'm going to have this just last about 5 seconds, or half a second, so we can zoom in a bit. Then in our animation, I'm going to click on, so while this animation, so rather than like output or the debugger, I'm actually going to bring up the animation, which automatically happens once you select the animation player. But then if we select back on our mesh, this is what we want to change. So I'm going to drag the timing slider all the way over here. I'm going to bring up the surface material override. I'm going to click on color. This is the color that I already want, so I'm going to keyframe that, and I'm going to create a reset track. That's fine, create. I'm going to jump into the reset track and say autoplay on load because this is exactly the way I want it. But when the hit occurs, I'm just going to make this kind of flash white and then transition back to red. So I'm going to go into color. I'm going to drag all these back up to white. Yep. Okay. And I'm going to keyframe that. So then when we take a hit, it'll flash white and then it'll transition back to red. And that looks pretty good. So let's go back into our script. We need a reference to this animation player. And then we'll say animation player.play hit. So instead of printing, we're going to make this animation play. So now when we go up to our enemy, right click, and then it takes a hit. And that happens regardless of which of these we click on. So from here, what we can do, right now we're just saying, well, the hand delivers 5 points of damage no matter what. But that should be offset by what type of player we are using. So is it a warrior type? Is it a mage? Is it a cleric? Is it a rogue? Whatever. So maybe because, well, and it could be either that or it can just be based straight on an attribute like the strength of the player or of the character. So we can use custom resources for that, just like we learned in the last lesson. So I will leave that as an exercise for you, but I will do that in our next lesson as to how to make custom resources for the different players and the different player types, and then we can see how we can kind of modify the strength or the amount of damage delivered based on something like a strength attribute. So I hope this is useful. Leave a comment if you are enjoying the series and would like to see more, or if there is anything in particular you would like to see. Leave a thumbs up if you enjoyed the video. And otherwise, I will see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.